McKenna. I am sitting here with Dev. He is a serial entrepreneur, so he has a water rice stand. He has Kid Royal. Real estate. So he is an all-around man. He has a really interesting story for us. So could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so my name's Devin. They call me Dev. I'm 33 years old, born and raised in Philadelphia. Lived in North Philly most of my life. I have been technically an entrepreneur since I was like maybe 8 years old.
Oh, wow. So what did you start out doing?
All right, so I think I got like my first $5 or $10 from somewhere, and I wanted a candy store so bad. So I went to the candy store and bought all the candy from the candy store and then resold it for the same price. And I actually lost a lot of money. I didn't know any better back then, but I knew that I wanted my own business. Right. So that was like the start of it. And I had a friend of mine. He used to go to the flower shop behind our projects. We go to the flower shop and we would take the flowers out of the dumpster. So they were still fresh, but the flower shop has to get rid of them at a certain time. Right. And we would take bundles or bouquets out of the dumpster and then sell them on the side of the highway. So, oh wow. Yeah, it was just the hustle mentality is what started my entrepreneur spirit at a very young age. Yeah. Okay. Also, I tried college after I graduated high school. I graduated from Roxborough, so I tried college for a little bit, and I always had jobs, but for whatever reason, I always looked at the boss or the manager of the job and said, I want to do what he's doing. Right. Like, he's the one that's really making the money, or he's the one that's really calling the shots, and I always wanted to do that. So that had been, my ambition came from seeing others who were doing some of those things, and I wanted to get in that position. So I don't know, like to say like what else. I don't know which way to go with it. No, so I'll talk forever. So.
No, that's fine. So you told me an interesting story when we were talking about your background, right? So tell us a little bit about basically your road, the path that you kind of took to kind of get you to where you are now.
All right. So when I was, like I said, I was in college. I went to Art Institute of Philadelphia for video production. I'm an artist, so I make music, record, and all that stuff. And at that time, I was 100% all in. Okay. And once I graduated high school, you needed like a backup plan. So video production would be an entryway for me to still stay in the field of where I wanted to go. So I was in college to do that. And just my first semester, I needed like $2,000. Okay. And I had no help. My mom couldn't help me. My dad couldn't help me. I'm the oldest sibling. Aunts and uncles is like, whatever. So I was in a position where I could have started school, but without this money, I would have been stuck in my projects. Right. Got some help from a family friend. They offered me a job. I did that. I went to school. But now, when that next semester was about to start, after the first semester, the next semester was going to start, I needed $2,500 to start. And I was in the same position. So even with financial aid and all that stuff,
you still needed
between a rock and a hard place. Right. And this time I had a shorter amount of time to come up with the money. And a friend of mine had introduced me to someone who could financially help me, which would be for me to be in the streets, and I would have to sell drugs in order to do so. And I ain't gonna lie, I told her, like, nope, I'm good. I'm gonna try to find another way. But when your back is against the wall and you're just like, all I need is just a little bit to do this, I did that, and I jumped back into the streets and I started to sell drugs. And ignorantly, I liked it. I liked the money that was coming with it, and I decided not to go back to school. I decided to stay in the streets, and then I went from being a worker for somebody to basically being my own boss in that field. And I made a lot of money. I did a lot of business ventures. I had a pet store and all that stuff. But however, like all things like that, that caught up to me. eventually I got indicted and I was sentenced to 135 months in the federal prison. So I went to prison for 11 years, but because of good time, I got out of prison after 9 years and a couple of months. So since December 2016, I've been released from prison, but I was still under home confinement. So I didn't even get free of home confinement until September of 2017.
So it was still like almost like another year.
Right. So September 2017 is technically the day that I've been a free man, and since then I've been going. Like I've been moving. I haven't had a job, a 9 to 5 since September.
In 2017.
Of 2017.
So talk to us about that process, because you told me that, and I think this is a really interesting perspective for people who may have had that experience of being locked up, right? And you told me something. You said that some people who hadn't been locked up, that were people that you were friends with, right? Were like, well, dang, I'm not even doing, like what I want to do, but you out here with doing your thing.
Right.
So, the thing that you said to me was, it's, if you don't have an opportunity, you have to create one.
And absolutely. So while incarcerated, a while away, I made it my life's plan to take that opportunity and school myself. So it's like, I'm not going to deal with that. Oh, when you get out of jail, you're not going to have, and nobody going to give you a job. You're a felon, and you hear that stigma all the time. And I'm like, all right, so what?
Right.
I'll make my own opportunities. And I did just that. So I studied business. Like, I literally took business courses. I took classes. I read tons of books, and I follow a lot of entrepreneurs and those who are multi-million and billionaires, and follow their traits and habits and things like that. And I learned that your perception and your mindset is what controls everything. No physical person or no society can tell you, because you're this is how things have to be.
Right.
If you believe that, then you'll get just that. Right. So I refuse to accept that, and it had been my life mission to create opportunities, and I continue to create opportunities for myself and for those who are around me.
Got it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that mindset change, because so what it sounds like to me is basically you still have some of those fundamental concepts about creating your own destiny from when you were that 8-year-old child, right? That candy store. So tell us about some of those paradigms. So those things that are in your environment, or those things that were in your family structure, those things that were around you that shaped how you thought about, I'm not going to just say money, but about how you were going to see the results in your life.
So the weird thing is this, honestly. So everybody in my family is poor. Like, we're all impoverished. My mother has been on welfare my whole life. My father has been, he works 9 to 5, but he has multiple children, and he's still young. My dad, I'm 33, my dad's 51. So, he's still young, and even back when I was growing up, of course, he was much younger, and none of them had the mentality to teach me, go after your goals, go to get what you want. Their teaching, and I don't think they realized it, was always the complaint of life is so bad because we're here, and this is what life is. So me seeing that, honestly, I think that I should have followed that pattern to always want to complain or always want to be in that. Right. So I can't necessarily explain how it ended up that I am thinking totally different from them. But I use them as an example. And it's not to speak bad about my parents, but it's just to say, like, my mentality isn't shaped by those who are in my immediate surroundings. It was me being hungry to see, okay, this individual is doing something positive. Right. I want to do that. So we had the one lady in our projects who had a candy store. And while everybody else was struggling and talking about how bad things was, she was running this little business out of her kitchen. And I was wondering, why is she making a move?
Right.
I want to make that move.
Right.
it's things like that. So I seen examples outside of my direct line of people who are around me, and the mindset had just became, I don't want what my dad had to go through. I don't want what my mother had to go through. If anything, I want to put myself in a position to where as though one day, mama, I'm going to help you not deal with that. One day, dad, I'm going to be able to make your life a little bit easier. You know what I mean? So that's what kind of shaped my mindset. Just wanting to do the opposite of what they were doing. So
that's really important to change your mindset regardless of the things that may be around you, right?
Absolutely.
So what about any struggles along the way? Because I know you have a lot of different ventures that you've done, right. So I'm sure there has been some obstacles along the way.
So for struggles for like the businesses that I have now, or
I guess when you think about it, it's a 2-part question, okay. Right? So I guess from the part of your mindset, and then actual things that got into your way in terms of like literal struggles with right. the business.
Okay, well, the first is doubt. You have doubt in yourself. Man, that's one of my biggest obstacles because I'm human. So right. when things aren't going according to my plans or things aren't going the way that I need them to go, the doubt comes in to say, dang, am I going to make it? Like, is this really worth it? Is this really going to happen? Right. So those obstacles are there, but it's mind over matter. So the matter being is not going well, I trick myself into saying, man, everything is going great. And eventually it will become that because of that. And also just not letting those little hurdles stop me, because quitting is a big thing. It's easy to quit. That's the easiest thing you can do. So I wake up some days and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about this particular thing today. I'll worry about the stuff that's going well. When that's actually the opposite of what I should be doing, because the things that are going well need my attention, but not as much. The stuff that's the struggle for me is what really needs my time and what needs my attention. So those are the struggles, is just battling myself on an everyday basis to push myself, to motivate myself. Like, so I think I seen a post on Instagram and they say, call the strongest person you know and make sure that they're okay, because just because they're so strong doesn't mean that they don't go through things. Right. And I am neglected by so many people because they see and say, "Whoa, you're doing fine.
Like, you're good."
That's a struggle. That's an obstacle for me, because I feel like, wow, don't nobody really care. Nobody really know that I can sometimes suffer with many depressions and little things like that. So mentally, right. those obstacles or struggles. The other ones is not meeting deadlines. So, for instance, I get people who order stuff from my product line, because I used to, at one time for Kid Royal, I bought a bunch of inventory. And I had spent a couple $1,000s on inventory, and for whatever reason, people always wanted what I didn't have in the inventory. Right. And because you're a customer who wants to spend money, I have to oblige that. So I find myself having to go and make it happen. But now, I don't print the shirts myself. Right. So I have to buy the shirts from a distributor, and then I have to go to a manufacturer who does the stuff for me. And when those two things aren't meeting up and those aren't right, my customers don't care about that. They look at me like, dude, I gave you my money. You said Tuesday. Why isn't my stuff here? So that has been a struggle. And just trying to, I guess, figure out if I want to streamline and do everything myself. But if I do it all myself, then it's even more work, and it takes away from the other stuff that I'm doing. So,
or over-deliver, right?
Right,
so more time for yourself.
Right, exactly. So, you have those things that are struggles. Just everyday stuff. You got bills to pay, and, your money comes the way that it comes, but you got more bills than the money that you have available at the time. So you have to play rob Peter to pay Paul. You got to take a little bit and shift, and so those are the struggles for me.
Yeah. So that's definitely a difference between going to a 9 to 5 and being an entrepreneur, right? Because 9 to 5, you're going to get your money on this particular day, right? But when you're an entrepreneur, once you finish the project, so you don't, and then they may not decide to pay you on time, or it's just really. So I get your point on that. But you said something really important. 2 things actually.
Okay.
You talked about habits, basically conditioning yourself to do what you have to do, right? So it's like, okay, because I know this is something that I struggle with as well, but procrastination, right, is one of those things, right? Or just whatever it is that you are struggling with, like changing or creating, rather, habits to be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this done, right? And another thing that she said that was really important was about actually being in control of changing your old thought pattern and like taking the effort to change how you think about something. That is so hard.
It's absolutely hard. It is. Now, I think it's so weird. Prison was a blessing for me.
Okay.
The reason why is because I didn't have no other worries. Mm-hmm. I was stuck. I was in prison. They're not letting me out of here for years.
Right.
So I didn't have to worry about bills. I didn't have to worry about taking care of anything financially. Everything was provided. Mm-hmm. So I think that helped me because when you're sitting there with nothing to do, you can take on those habits that you've set for yourself. You can practice those things. And man, I had to learn patience. I had to learn discipline. I had to learn a lot because I wanted to go home. I wanted to see family. I was not patient. Like, man, 5 years is a long time, but I have 11. And every time a year went by, I was trying to rush New Year's to come. I just needed these years to fly. So you learn patience. Now, here on the streets, I'm relearning a lot of that stuff. I didn't forget anything, but let's say if I learned 10 things while I was away, I practiced 5 of them, and the other 5 have strayed away. So I'm relearning those other 5 things. Like I'm relearning. I'm very patient, but I'm not patient at the same time. Like I want everything right here, right now, and I constantly have to remind myself, dude, just relax. You'll get it. So it's a conditioning thing, but it takes practice. Because even though you can learn something, learning and practicing is 2 different things.
That's very true.
And so I am practicing.
That's very true.
I'm practicing to exercise those habits because those habits are going to help me, especially with business. See, the thing that people fail to realize is that it's self-control for business because you are your
dropping
boss.
jewels right
now.
That's
just what it is. You are your boss. So I can wake up in the morning and I can do whatever I want. Mm-hmm. But the question is, the things that I do is going to help benefit me now and help me to get where I'm trying to go 5 or 10 years from now.
Right.
And every little thing adds up. When you build your foundation, you have to start with the surface and you have to constantly build on it. You can't expect to go from the structure. You can't go from the roof to the ceiling in one day. Like you just have to build it up. You have to work it up. And so those things that you say, like conditioning and control, all that stuff it's an everyday practice. Every day. Yeah.
So on the flip side of that, what are some of your successes or things that you found? And I guess maybe we kind of did talk about that.
Okay.
That you feel are help you to be successful, like
motivation. Motivation is everything. So believe it or not, I seek outward motivation. Like shout out my man Meek Mill. Welcome home. Like he is motivation for real because even though he's only speaking in music, I know the streets that he's come from. I've seen where he has been, and then I see where he is now, and that's a motivation within itself because it's like. I've been in them same streets. I've been through them same things. So I can get to that level of success. Not necessarily about being rich all the time, but just the well-being of not being in those struggles, being in that set anymore. So those motivations are the things that say, like, I'm doing, everything that I'm doing is for a purpose. It's for a benefit. And I like to benefit those who are around me. It's not all about me. So actually, you might get the best benefits before I even get them. You might get the benefits of my work today. I probably won't get mine for some time. But that motivation is basically one of the biggest things, is just pulling it from other people, and then I know that I got people who depend on me. I provide opportunity for people, and then it's like, hey, listen, dude, I need you to help make this thing happen. So that pressure can do two things. It can hurt you, or it can make a diamond out of you. So I rather try to make a diamond out of the pressure. Absolutely.
Nice. So, for someone who maybe is thinking about being an entrepreneur, or someone who is just scared about taking that step, or just want to give up, what would you tell them?
So, you can look at entrepreneurship as something that you read about, like in magazines and stuff, when they talk about these people have these big conglomerates of businesses and all that stuff. And no, that's not the true definition of being an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is just someone who takes on a risk. You're going to take on a risk that you hoping the risk that you're taking is going to get you a financial gain later on. So I say to anybody that's nervous, start small. Like, work your job. If you're going to work a 9 to 5, work your 9 to 5. But I call them hustles. Create a hustle on the side, a legit hustle. Something that won't get you into trouble. Create that hustle on the side. Use that hustle as your platform. Maybe it might be that you want to start a beauty salon. If that's your thing and you want to start a beauty salon and you don't have the money, some people just always think about what they want to do and never accomplish it. So work your job, do hair on the side, take the money from the side hustle and put that away. Use that to be your nest egg, so that way now you'll have what you need to take the next step. And in the meantime, there's nothing wrong with interning or becoming an apprentice to someone who's doing the thing that you want to do. So I am the biggest freaking intern. I'm the biggest, and I get on people's nerves because I'm like, hey, listen, let me talk to you for a second. I need to know everything that you know. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to work for that person, but I call and ask 1,000 questions. I read books on even some of people that I can't get in touch with. I read and I learn what they're doing, and I say, all right, I'm going to apply that. So I always tell a person, if you want to get into being an entrepreneur, or if you are already an entrepreneur and things aren't going a certain way, you can do, I love this word, pivot. So what pivoting is, if anybody knows basketball, pivoting, if you're dribbling the ball, you can move both feet. As soon as you stop dribbling the ball, you cannot move both feet anymore, because it would be a violation, which is called a walk. So you can actually spin and turn on one foot. That one foot becomes your pivot.
Got it.
So now, because you can be in this direction, you can switch and turn and pivot and be in another direction, as long as you don't move this foot. So you use this foot as your business. This is your business. So if your business, Kid Royal, I'll give you a great example. Kid Royal started out as a t-shirt line for boys. Not grown men, just for little boys. And I had a bunch of stuff printed up, and I had a lot of people calling for their daughters. Can I have a shirt? My daughter, I said, but this is for boys. They're like, listen, I want a pink shirt and pivot. My business is still t-shirts, but I have to move in this direction because the customer is now telling me
this is
what they want. I had grown people say, hey, can I get a 2X? I'm like, no, I only make them for children. They're like, dog, I need a 2X and I need the black one and the white one. I'm like, pivot. It's still a business. But if I'm not getting the little boy orders that I want, I have to make it work. Now, I'm not saying you're supposed to change your business for every whim of anybody, but nothing has changed really about the business. It's still Kid Royal. It's still a t-shirt company. I just provide it to different people now. So I say all that to say, if you're in business and you want to get into business, say you want to be, like I said, someone who owns a hair salon, you might have to pivot. You might have to learn how to manage someone else's hair salon before you get into owning yours, because it's a lot of mistakes that come with business.
Yes.
And if you don't learn now, oh my goodness, it's going to be
worse.
Yeah, and that's why they say over 50% of businesses that start fail. Mm-hmm. Most of the time they fail is because of poor management and people just aren't financially ready for it. So you have to take everything that comes with it. Not be scared. Take the risk. That's the whole point. The whole point of being an entrepreneur. Take the risk. If you fail, okay. Get up, dust it off, and try it again. Absolutely.
Right. And so just to piggyback on what you said, you're talking about being an intern. Mm-hmm. You have to give to get, right?
Absolutely.
So you may not always get paid, right?
Oh, no.
Right.
But you will get paid. It might not be money, but if I don't know how to sew,
right,
and you have a sewing business and I come and work for you, you're giving me the experience of learning how to sew. That's payment within itself, because maybe you don't have a sewing machine at home to practice on your own.
Right.
This here is practice. Payment comes in different forms.
Yes.
People believe that payment is only money. If you ever read, I read Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. Mm-hmm. One of the habits or one of the things that he says is to do more than what you're paid for.
Yes.
The reason that you do that is because the more you do, you actually benefit from it. And it builds, oh my God, it builds work ethic. It builds so much. So, like I said, I intern all the time. It might not be, like I said, I'm working at someone's office, but trust, I'm always helping somebody to get to the next level. Like I have, there's a girl who's starting a cosmetic line. I don't want no parts of her line, but I said, I'm great at marketing. Come work with me. I'll show you how to market. I'll help you market. I'll do it for free. I don't want nothing from it. That's an internship for her, but it's also me doing more than what I'm paid for, because it just helps me to keep my skills sharp in marketing. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
So this is Dev. Can you tell us how to contact you if we want a T-shirt or any of your,
sure.
Just one.
So many things, right? So if you want to get some Kid Royal, I have an Instagram page. It's KIDDROYAL 17. So it's Kid Royal 17 on Instagram. I'm on Instagram also at DevHoc, DVHOC. You can find me on Facebook at Devin Hockaday Jr. Honestly, I don't have any websites set up yet, just because that's not my strong suit, and so I haven't found anyone to really help me to get the websites going. But I don't know if this is too much. You can call me. My phone number is 203-240-9172. You can call for questions. I'm down to help people elevate and move on to a next chapter. Any questions you have about writing a business plan or just starting your business, like I can help you with that. I help a lot of people. I got a guy in Florida right now who he didn't know the first thing about setting up a LLC for his water rights company that he has down there. And he gives me so many accolades on Instagram. He's like, yo, man, I really appreciate you taking that time to help me. So I'm down to help, man. It's all love here. Right. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.